Hello and welcome to the Bronze Age Monsters bonus show. This is a show we make each and every week for our loyal patrons. We talk about a film, we talk about comics, we talk about our lives. We have lots of different segments now, which I'm pretty excited about. We go back to we have established segments now, Matt.
Yes.
It's pretty awesome. So, but we always watch a movie, normally on our Discord with our friends, and it's a movie that has kind of tenuous connections, or sometimes not, to our comic that we read for that month. For this week, we read Tales of the Zombie 6, the Brother Voodoo story in there. And so, Matt, this was different. You gave people on our Discord like a choice, like an A and a B, like pick a hand, right?
Yeah, the illusion of agency, yes.
Yeah, it was definitely the illusion of agency. Because guess what? Most people pick the first one.
Yeah, it was more of a psychological experiment. Like, I figured, I wonder if people, you say pick a hand, the whole thing, like when you're a kid, just pick a hand.
It's the first one.
Which hand do people choose? Do they choose whatever their dominant hand is, that mirroring hand? Or do they weird one level of chess of like, they think that I'm going to choose that one, so I'll choose the other one? Or do they go into the whole, no, they think I'm going to think that, so I'm going with the first choice, like that, that thing. I was just curious, and most people chose the first hand, which I assumed was just going to be probably the case. Like, it's just it's an uninformed choice, so it doesn't matter, so I'll choose one. And people the first hand was a a Corey Feldman movie from 1995, direct-to-video, called Voodoo, that was directed by Renee Iram, who is a real person, not just a Alan Smithy anagram. We thought it was an anagram, but they have a couple credits.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, so curious. I think you did tell me this and I forgot. What was in the other hand, man?
The other hand was, I think it's 1940. It's a Poverty Row film called Voodoo Man, starring Bela Lugosi.
Oh yeah, that would have been awesome.
You and I have talked a lot about how we love Poverty Row, which is a blanket umbrella term for just like some cheapy film studios from the 30s that would just crank out these quick movies. So you got your Rondo Hatton, the guy with the I forgot the macromegaly, I think it was the affliction he had. Just these quickie, like there were noirish, like detective crime films. There's horror films, but they're all kind of genre, and they were all quick turn, like 2 or 3 day shooting schedules. So it's something where like Bela Lugosi would go and crack out, Ape Man and Voodoo Man and something else like in like a week when he needed some heroin. Basically, they're just like these quickie movies, and I find them more often than not super charming and engaging. So
I agree. Now I thought, doesn't the Poverty Row thing come from the PRC studio? I thought that was like the nickname. I mean, I forget what PRC actually stood for, but enough of those, so they called it Poverty Row. Yeah,
but there's a couple other studios, like I want to say Monogram. I'm not sure if that's the one.
Monogram
there's like
Pictures.
There's 2 or 3 other ones that they kind of just lump into. But yeah, Poverty Row came from, like you were saying, PRC is where the official moniker joke name is. But like, but it's more just kind of come to just represent just that era of cheapy, quickie filmmaking and genre films that were meant to turn a quick buck and fill out a bill.
Yep.
And so yeah, I was like thinking, well, I hope they choose the other hand, but I'm sure they're going to choose the first hand. And
no,
we've talked a lot. We have a lot to talk about on this bonus show. We don't want to go too long, so I'll keep it short. But Corey Feldman, if you don't know, was a child actor who was in some of the most beloved films of the 1980s. He was in Stand By Me. He was in Goonies. He was in Gremlins. He was in Friday the 13th Part 4.
The Burbs.
And he had, in most people's opinion, quite a bit of promise. I mean, his performance in Stand By Me, I think, is an amazing achievement. I think everyone's performances in that film. That film was one of my favorite movies of that decade. But at some point, he did he was a child star, so there's a lot of risk there for going off the rails. He was enamored with Michael Jackson's career. At some point around 1987, when Bad came out, he decided he could be the white Michael Jackson. He started growing his hair out and giving himself jerry curls and wearing the same types of clothes. and dancing that way. And he worked it into a film he was in called Dream a Little Dream with Jason Robards. It's a body switching movie, which is a bizarre fad that was really popular for like 2 years. And that's where most people say between License to Drive and that is where he kind of jumped off the rails and started sniffing his own farts and getting high off his own supply. By the time it's the 90s, he and his friend Corey Haim were actually more frenemies in reality. Weren't working so much because of substance abuse issues and just being assholes and whatever. And so they would appear in direct-to-video stuff together sometimes just because they were cashing in on the Corey's fame. Then in the 2000s, they were in a reality show together that was very highly structured, kind of controversial. And then Corey Haim died of people think it's drug related, but it was not. It was pneumonia. He was just an unhealthy person because of substance abuse issues, and he died. In my opinion, he was the better of the two guys. And since then, in the 2010s, Corey Feldman has basically capitalized on Corey Haim's friendship and death and turned into a cottage career of exploitation. And so there's a whole cottage industry of hating Corey Feldman now. He's also a complete fucking creep. He has Corey's Angels, which is if you're a young, sexy, hot woman and you want to get ahead in showbiz, you can live in his Feld mansion and you dress up in lingerie and you wear angel wings and you are vegan and you do weird, creepy cult shit. And he's your I don't know, Hef. Like he's like the Hef of Feld Mansion. And he has a shitty band. He has a terrible career that he's been doing musically since 1992. Several solo albums, each one's worse than the last. He's a fucking train wreck of a human being. And he gets shittier as a person as he goes. So I love watching him go down in flames. Each year it passes, he gets shittier and weirder.
Yeah, Matt, I'm going to have to say, as far as the cottage industry goes, I mean, you're one of its biggest supporters. Like it's like it's not just a hobby. It's a side hustle for you, hating Corey Feldman. Yeah. I hate him. Watching endless videos about why he's a piece of shit, which I applaud.
Yeah. It's, there's like hour-long docu things on YouTube. It's a whole rabbit hole you can go down, and I highly recommend it. It's very interesting, but if nothing else, just watch some of his live performances, or if nothing else, at least go watch the thing where he knocked his own tooth out on stage when he kind of rocked a microphone forward to try to do some cool dance move, and then it came back and knocked his tooth out on stage, and then he stopped the show until someone found his tooth on the floor of the concert video. Fucking hilarious. Got such a piece of
amazing
shit.
Or at least watch the Today Show performance.
Yeah, the two Today Show performances where he
God.
It is something else. And his
unreal.
The double album he was supporting on for those shows is considered one of the worst albums ever made. Definitely one of the worst albums of this century, and needs to be checked out. It is insane. So yes, this is Corey Feldman past his prime, 95. He had already been in a film called Blown Away with Corey Haim, where it's an erotic thriller where he basically had softcore sex scenes with a female lead and Corey Haim in it, which was legendary. Like at the time, like it came out and people were like, "Oh my God, this is how low these guys have gotten." So this is like right around then. So we don't need to. We're not going to hang on too hard on this one, but
no.
I don't know how easily you can find this. I downloaded it from Cinemageddon because when I saw there was a Voodoo themed movie with Corey Feldman in it, we had to watch it. It was not really a choice. So I rigged the game and made the voting happen the way I wanted it to go so that we could watch it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Honestly, it wasn't. That was the thing. I was waiting for it was acceptably cringy for 95.
Yeah.
It was not, I mean, it was just a low budget movie that was, not great and kind of boring, but nothing that was just I wasn't howling or rolling on the floor because it was so bad. Like it was just, a kind of boringly not great, but not awful movie.
Yeah. It has a 4.6 on IMDb. Like we said, it was 95. Sci-Fi, the channel was born in 92 or 93 and was kind of new. Sci-Fi is famous now for having shitty direct, made for TV movies and filler series. But back then, this would have been perfect for that. Like there's two brief topless scenes of women. And like 3 times someone swears in this. And to me, it almost felt like it was just like we're doing this for the VHS. This is being made for sci-fi though. Like it felt like it was like a sci-fi movie and they're just making a VHS version with a couple swears and some nipples.
Yeah, I think that's a really accurate way of describing this. Like you say, we don't want to belabor the point, but basically, Corey Feldman's character, Andy, his not even girlfriend, right? Like, was she his actual girlfriend, or just like, did they go out on 2 dates or something?
The way she behaves, it's like what you just said, but I think they actually were dating, and then he is in Europe to be a novelist in the UK, going to, I don't know, Cambridge or something, or Oxford, I don't know where he's going. But then he drops out or lost his funding or whatever, and so he comes home and surprises his girlfriend while she's at school in Southern California, and she's not happy to see him.
She's not happy to see him at all, and she's studying to be a doctor, and obviously has just moved on with her life. And he just shows up. He's like, "Hey, I'm here. I'll just stay with you." And she's like, "No,
Surprise.
No, you're not going to stay with me. Maybe try this frat like my friends are at." And it was just like, whatever the cartoonishly, idiot jock.
You mean the Pie News? Yeah, those the Pie News were dicks.
The Pie News were dicks. And so, of course, they try to, have him pledge and do crazy shit. He's just like, "Fuck you guys," and leaves, runs into some cool dude at a bar that kind of saves him from getting his ass kicked. And then he's like, "Oh, we're in a very exclusive frat. Like, you should come with us. And we just have 7 guys. We need another to keep our pledge." So, and guess what? Those guys are a voodoo cult. They're all, they're all zombies. And Matt, you pointed it out during our watch along. You're just like, this is the whitest zombie movie of all time. Not one person of color, not one black person in the entire thing. This is voodoo. Chance, everything.
There was a custodian who was waxing a floor. That was literally the one person of color of the entire film.
Which made it worse. That actually made it worse.
Yeah.
And so bad. Jack Nance is in it, which Matt, you and I love. We make our love for Jack Nance on our sleeve. We love the guy. And I was reading, so it wasn't Jack Nance's last film, but his last film was Meatballs 4, which Corey Feldman was in.
Yeah. So one of them got a gig on Meatballs 4, and the other one said, who you should work with is this guy I was on Voodoo with, because he's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, man. So good. So, I don't know.
Let's talk about a few interesting things. So the leader of the Voodoo frat, like you said, all of the pledges or where all the fraternity members are dead. And the leader of the fraternity is trying to get a 7th member. I forgot why. When he gets 7 zombies under him, he's like a Loa, something happens. I forgot what it was, but
I think so. Whatever.
His name is like very Lovecraft, like literally Lovecraft. Like his last name is Marsh. Which I think is a family in like the Shadow over Innsmouth or Dunwich Horror or something.
I think it's Dunwich Horror.
So it's very much a Lovecraft nod, but this is not Eldritch Horror at all. It's very bright 90210 cheap camcorder version of 90210, like campus horror movie. And I guess the weirdest thing to me was Feldman's performance in this was subdued to the point of being like Quaalude inspired. Like he mutters. We were like making jokes like, is he doing like a Montgomery Clift? Is he James Dean? Like he was very doing that kind of like, if they have to strain to hear you, that means they're paying attention, bro. Like that kind of like methody weird thing.
Yeah, I almost was wishing for the out of control nightmare that modern Corey Feldman is in this. Because yeah, you're right. He was so subdued, so just like acting like he doesn't care, but it really is like he can't act. Yeah. And it was, so it was, I think that his performance made this film, not like a great, shitty movie to watch, because it's just, if it was more over the top, I think it would have made this movie more interesting.
Yes. We all made lots of jokes during the watch along about how everyone's clothes were incredibly baggy. Everyone wore XXXL clothing in the 90s. I've forgotten a little bit about that. Like all the girls dressed like Blossom.
Yeah.
That was rough. Like you were saying,
rough.
The second half of the film, Feldman's character Andy, I believe, was dressing consciously like James Dean's character in Rebel Without a Cause. He has a white T-shirt, a red like shirt jacket over it, and like blue jeans. Like I felt like he was just doing the thing he did with Michael Jackson, but James Dean, and trying to do the Benicio del Toro, James Dean mumbly, like just like, you know, Steve McQueen, like the whole kind of like little ticks and just the quiet kind of weird methody acting thing where he was like, I can be a good actor now. I can do this.
Oh man, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that funny thing is that, yeah, you're right. He was trying to emulate James Dean's look, but guess what? James Dean's clothes were fitted, not baggy. There's a big difference there. It's a big difference on how it comes across on film. So yeah, you know, I'm curious what kind of rating you're going to give this, honestly.
Me too.
I don't know. I don't know.
So this also had Sarah Douglas in it, who was from Superman 2. She was one of the I don't know, what do you call them? Zod and Companies. She was that sexy British woman villain from, so she was in this, sadly for her. I didn't
Very sadly for her.
Dig deep into her career, but it's a shame she was in this. She played his girlfriend's like cohort leader or whatever, the medical teacher or something.
Yeah.
So I like Jack Nance. I like that he looked like John Constantine. Like he had like the trench coat on and the tie kind of loose. Like he looked like he was Hellblazer. Like, but come to find out, he's actually one of the students, one of the fraternity people's dad, and so he's trying to warn Corey Feldman's character away to get him out of here. He's the wild card, like, you know, get out of here, kid. This is crazy. You're in over your head, like that kind of guy, which is perfect for Jack Nance.
He's awesome at it. Yeah, you're right. He totally is that. He's Constantine, but Constantine Columbo.
Yes,
combo, I think is really what it is. Yeah.
Just one more thing, you cunt.
One more thing about zombies.
Anyway, I really don't know how to rate this. If it were on YouTube or Tubi, I would. The fact that I had to forget it, I don't even know if you can just. I think you have to rent it.
Oh yeah.
So the fact that it's like $1.99 on Apple TV or Prime, I'm gonna say no. This is not an emphatic thumbs down. I'm more leaning towards this.
That's where I'm at, because I didn't despise it. I don't think anyone should pay money for it. If you can find it on YouTube, or if it eventually comes on Tubi, yeah, check it out. There's a lot of funny things about this. If you have to pay for it, never in a million years pay for it.
No.
But if you can get it for free, and that's why I think Sideways Claw is the way to go.
Okay.
If you can get it for free somewhere, check it out.
Yes. And never pay for it.
Ever.
It's like sex. If you're paying for it, you're doing it wrong.
That's right.
And like many of our films, I would never recommend you watch this by yourself. This is not that kind of movie. If you have a pizza and you have a couple friends and a 6-pack of beer, this can be fun. Again, it's not It's not ripe for riffing. It's not like the funniest movie to make fun of, but it's just like mildly amusing.
Yeah. One thing I couldn't give it a claw down.
Okay. Yeah, I felt weird doing this, but it was the $1.99 that did this. If you say like once you had the asterisk of like, if you can see it for free, it's this.
Then it's that. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed about 90s horror films, which is kind of considered a fallow period for that genre of movies in general, which is, you know, again, a wide generalization.
Yep.
The first time there's a scene at night, I remembered why I hate so many movies from this era, and it's because they filmed everything with this like electric hot blue. So every night scene, like there's like all the full moon movies. There's this movie called Subspecies. It's about these vampires. It's a series of vampire films Full Moon did. But like they're filmed in Romania for tax breaks, but they'll be out in the woods some horror scene at night out in the middle of the fucking Romanian woods, and everything is just blue, like Suspiria blue. And I don't know why they did that in the 90s, but there's just like these huge floodlights of blue everywhere, and I hate it. And it turns me off to this genre of horror and this era of horror largely. So
absolutely.
Cheap horror in the 90s, I think, looks cheap as fuck for the most part. Again,
it does.
Dead Alive, Army of Darkness, all none of these things count. I'm talking about cheapy, quickie movies.
Direct to video.
Yeah. So our next movie is paired with a mummy film. And so that is called Voodoo Black Exorcist. It's an Italian film from the 70s. The title is definitely a Scrabble, kind of fridge magnet, kind of just things that were popular in the mid 70s. Yep. I will say, I hope you guys join us through the Discord. There's always an invite that's in the podcast show notes to the Discord. This one does just a warning. This one has blackface. Characters are born again or something, but in the original iteration, they are Haitian people in blackface, essentially to be black people. So if that's something that would be upsetting to you, beyond the normal level of just like, oh God. But I mean, if it's actually upsetting, then you might not want to watch this one. But
no.
Despite the title, it's actually a mummy movie. So
oh, cool. All right. I'm in.
It's supposed to be terrible. So if you're going to watch it, I think you should watch it with us. Agreed. Sunday evening, people. That's when we watch the terrible movies together. All right. Let's do a quick Kickstarter catch up.
Sure.
Kickstarter catch up. Does it cut the mustard? Reading with relish. All the hot dog stuff. Kickstarter catch up. Okay, so I backed a project called Savage Wizard, issue 1 of Savage Wizard. Probably a year or so ago, and it was written by Leslie Julian and Doug Wood. It has a credit of written and created by Leslie Julian and Doug Wood, art and story by Brian Flint. And this was, I'm not sure how this even came across my radar. I don't know if it's because Kickstarter is recommending things because I've been backing comics there for the last couple of years or what, but in my recent adult years, I've gotten into Conan and sword and sorcery stuff and whatever. So this piqued my interest. I think this is probably within the same year that I read Barbaric from Vault Comics, which I fucking love. And it mixes like, comedy, black comedy and violence and kind of some crude humor along with some clever stuff and a lot of heart at the same time. This perfect balance. So I think Barbaric is absolutely brilliant. So I thought, well, let's check this out. And I was also intrigued because the characters, Leslie Julian is a person of color and the characters were people of color. So it had kind of a barbarian thing going on with characters of color. So I was just like, let's support that. That sounds cool. I'll throw in $5 for this. So I shared this with Jacob so he could kind of talk along with me a little bit, but we don't like to go too deep into stuff here, but I'm sharing a little bit of the art as I talk about this, but I liked the art for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the premise here is that we're in a kind of fantasy world where there's a army of orcs and there's a army of warriors who are humanoid, like barbarian warriors. And we start off with a big battle between the two of them. There's two kind of people that are the leaders of the barbarians. One is named Scom and one is Benar. Renar. R apostrophe N-A-R. Anyway, Renar is like the cliche, like slash first, ask questions later. He wants to just charge this army of orcs and do whatever. And Scom is the more the thinker guy, and he clearly has designs on being the leader of the group, even though he isn't. And this is basically a setup. There's a huge battle, and Renar ends up they beat all of the orcs, and there's a massive battle sequence in here that takes up the first half of the issue with some gorgeous art and some really fun, violent stuff. This is definitely a kind of black comedy. I think there's a lot of jokes in here. Yeah, and so it basically the two friends after the battle come kind of butt heads, and Renard says, "I think you want to take the crown. What the hell?" And Scum's like, "Hey, let's settle this like men." And he ends up chopping off Renard's hand. And Renard encounters a witch character. And the whole premise of this thing, setting up this origin story, is that a guy who has led with his sword and not his brain his entire life loses that ability to be live a life of violence easily, and he is treated by a witch. And the whole kind of switcheroo here is that he becomes her acolyte, and so there's a barbarian who is going to become a wizard, and that's kind of the setup for a whole thing. It's 28 pages. There's a decent interview with the with Doug and Leslie in the back, explaining where they got the idea from, and it sounds like it was literally just they had pitch Vember, and we're just spitting out ideas. And he said that he just wrote down a note that says, "A disgraced wizard trains under the wing of a Conan-like warrior to save the world. A wizard switches classes." So there's a lot of inherent comedy in this idea of this female witch who's like a young, cool, like Michonne kind of looking character who takes this idiot under her wing and is like apparently going to teach him magic and the ways to survive without his sword hand. And it's very clear from like the chants of the tribe and stuff like that, you know, no hand, no sword, no hand, no sword. Once his hand gets cut off, it's like this dude's dead to them. So he has to find a way to survive in this world. So as a setup, I thought it was interesting. I did have some problems with it though. I felt that although I like the art a lot, it leaned really heavily into action, especially in the first half. And I felt that sometimes the art was not clear what was happening. And I had to read it twice to even suss out sometimes what some of the intended actions were in a panel.
I think that's fair. I had the same thought. I had to read it twice just to figure out what the fuck was going on. Like, I really liked the art. I just feel like the execution and the story for me, the story didn't come across. Maybe it was the thing of throwing like a 12-page battle in pages 1 through 12 and then having like all the story and character development on the back end of the comic. So I had a hard time relating to it because I was already kind of battle weary by the time they're like, okay, you know, title card goes up and now this is the story. I was just like, oh dude, I don't know. Yeah, I had to read it twice to figure out what was going on, and that's never like the greatest sign.
No, and we've been spoiled by reading Gene Colan and stuff like that, but like I didn't realize until the second time that the youth characters were a flashback, and those were the two main characters as kids showing their. I thought that was back in Civilization, a moment back where these warriors came from. Like, this is happening right now. This is what's at stake. I thought that's what that meant. I didn't realize that was Scum and Renard until the second time I read it.
Well, I didn't realize that till right now.
So I felt there were some deficiencies in the storytelling as cartoonists that really hobbled this. Like you said, it starts off with an epic battle. I thought the art, there's so much great art. Like there'll be a huge panel of orcs, and like each one has their own thing going on, their own, you know, much like in Two Towers or whatever. It's like, holy shit, everyone has their own scar or their own paint or their own dreadlocks or whatever. That stuff's cool. And I did like when you see the horde and then they're regarding the barbarians up on the hill, and then like they're kind of looking down at them, and Renard's like saying like, let's fucking charge, let's do it. Like just go dead into this battle. And Scum's like, wait a minute, there's ways to, you know, and he's like, this tree's already weak. And then like Renard's like, let's just go. And then like he charges down, and then Scum like does one whack with this sword of this like tree that's already like half chopped down, and this giant tree falls down and smashes half the orcs. Like, okay, that's cool. I like that the first time. I was like, this is clever. There's two guys who are diametrically opposed people who the way they go through the world. That's cool. But then, like you're saying, this epic battle, cartoonish badass violence I loved. And then once it kind of settles back down into that world, I was like, okay, who are you again? And who are you? Okay, wait a minute. Okay, wait.
I didn't know who anyone fucking was.
And when the witch came in, like I was, she clearly has prophetic visions and sees something. So which is fine. We're laying seeds for a potential ongoing story. So that's all right. But I felt like there was many times where I was, even when like you would see like the Orc King like backhand Scum or Renar, and he would go sliding backwards, and then like you see him like running back up like Three Stooges, like and like jumping onto him again. Like it would take me 3 like reads of that to parse it. Like, oh, he hit him, he goes flying back, and then he's tenacious and he runs back and immediately attacks again. That should be a one-time read.
Yep.
And I'm not saying the art's not good, because I thought the art was gorgeous. I didn't think it worked mechanically in a lot of places.
Like through the whole thing. That was the weird thing, to where even in the battle scene, I was just like, fuck, this is awesome. Like this is highly detailed, but it was almost just like highly detailed for detail's sake. It was just like, I didn't understand the story. The art didn't move the story. I was just like, yeah, this is cool as shit, but it's not telling me anything. It's not sequential art.
Yeah. I felt a lot of times like I was working to figure out what was going on, and not in a way that the creators probably intended.
No, not at all.
You could go into something like a Rick Veitch thing, you know, like Abraxas and the Earthman or whatever, where you're just like, okay, apparently it's Moby Dick, but I just took 18 hits of acid, so let's fucking figure it out. And that's fun. This
awesome.
Didn't feel like it was meant to be me clawing my way through out of the earth into the light, understanding my world. It felt like it was doling me out seeds that didn't grow anything. And I just was like, I don't understand. Is this a seed? This is a seed? This is a seed. Okay. So this is a seed. Okay. And this is, it's a trail. So this is, I go the next one.
Okay.
Okay. I'll go the next one. Like, I just felt like it didn't live up to its promise, as far as like, there's a ton of talent in the storytelling and a ton of talent in the art side of this. I wish they would have meshed better and made a more fluid experience for me as a story.
Yeah. No, that's very accurate.
I would be willing to read more from this. And like, again, I feel like this is, I thought there was the seeds of a great story between the witch and Renar, and the whole idea of like a dude being a dumb jock and losing his dumb jock abilities and having to be a fucking nerd and learn how to be a nerd to survive in the world. That tension between the two of them has a lot of potential. So yeah. I would back another 2 issues of this sight unseen, just based on I'd throw $10-15 at this. Like, give me 48 more pages. You've earned that much from me based on the art. But yeah, I can't wholeheartedly recommend it. But if you're into sword and sorcery and some gorgeous violence, some gorgeous orc smashing here and there, and some intermittent coherence, I would check it out.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a Kickstarter catch up for you. All right. Let's talk about your evening.
Yeah. So what's this segment called? Library Tales from the Library?
Yeah. You need you need a lick though to go into
I'll get on.
Segments.
I'll get on that. We do. I mean, I love that we have actual segments with little stingers and stuff. Like, I think that's fucking awesome. But no, today, this evening, I did my teen murder mystery, which I do every quarter. The last one I did was Murder at the Speakeasy. It was took place in the 20s. This one was called Home for the Holidays. It took place in modern time. So all the kids like wore their best like ugly Christmas sweater. That's why I have terrible Christmas pins and my name tag still. I was Norman. And the assistant director at a library, Amanda, was Cheryl, and we were the mom and dad of this very dysfunctional family, and all these other. And it's one of those like you can buy them on Etsy for like $35 or something. And I always look through the ones, and I'm like, what's the PG version? And then I get that one. And so I did that and it was fun. My 1920s one was like one of the greatest events ever done. So I'm never going to top that. This one was a lot of fun. The kids really had a great time. I didn't have as much of a good time as I did before because the age on this one skewed much younger. For my programs, you can be 12 to 18. The 20s one was a lot of like 15 to 17-year-olds. This one was like almost all 12 to 13-year-olds. Ooh, that's rough. So I forgot that, like, oh no, this is a whole different thing. It just ends up with like screaming and yelling and running around and like having fun. But I'm just like, oh yeah, 12-year-olds are morons.
Yeah.
Like, and they're not fun to, wrangle even 4 of them, but like 20 of them.
Yeah.
That's like, oh my God.
That's a lot of tweens.
It was a lot of tweens. And
Oof.
I'm more used to my like band and drama kid, like 14 to 18.
Yeah.
And
so
yeah. Oof. Yeah. I mean, everyone had fun, but for me, it was just like, fuck. It was a lot. So yeah, we did that. It was great. Everyone had a good time. Everyone went home. The library closes at 8. So why this skewed so young for me this time is that there's a thing in Klamath Falls called the Snowflake Parade. And it's this big thing, this big parade that goes down the 2 roads that are main streets in Klamath Falls, where the library is and where I live just right above it in the hills, right above downtown. And this is an annual thing that I guess everyone knows about except me, because I scheduled my murder mystery the night of the Snowflake Parade. Funny thing, library kids and band kids, that Venn diagram's a fucking circle.
Yes, it is.
So all of my library kids, all my favorite kids, they were like, Jacob, we can't do it. We're in the Snowflake Parade. So I was like, motherfucker. And so, yeah, so that kind of, it didn't ruin it. Everyone had fun, but it ruined it for me because it wasn't as fun for me. Then, okay, we finish. Everyone goes home. Library shuts down. I walk out. And the Snowflake Parade is still going on. Like, I'm parked in front of the library. One Klamath is going this way. Main Street is going behind the library. I live up the hill. Both these streets are blocked off. So there's no possible way I can get home. And it's like a sheet of ice everywhere too. And so I was just like, I guess I'm just watching this fucking parade. And so I just walk 1 block up to Main and just kind of sit there and watch the parade. And I was just like, well, fuck it. I'm going to be here for probably an hour. And so I ended up like kind of standing next to this family I kind of recognized. And they seemed, I was like, I think these guys are kind of like me. It's that weird thing in a small, very red town to where you're like, are you cool? Like, maybe, I don't know. And there was this really like, I was standing next to this dude and I recognized him. He brings his kids into the library. And I was like, oh yeah, I work at the library and I'm stuck. So I'm just watching this. And he was like, oh yeah, I recognize you. So many people thank you for your service when you're a librarian or you work. It's so great. They're like, thanks so much for working at the library. And he was like, I bring my kids there and they have a great time. And so I was standing next to him and there were a couple of like floats going by. And then there was this one like truck that was going by that was just completely like covered in like a weird tarp. It was like a box truck. And all it did, it had nothing on it. It just had 2 American flags flying. And this guy next to me, like I was whispering to myself as I'm filming this, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And the guy next to me is like, that's a really ominous truck. And I was like, yeah, no shit, right? That scared the shit out of me.
Full of fertilizer and fucking
I know, I was just like,
screws.
What is this? I was just like, this is fucked up. Like, we're all going to die now, right?
Oh my God.
And yeah, so we were laughing about that. And then, the parade was kind of winding down. And this float comes, and I think it's one of the high schools. And it was so one of my, I love it. I loved seeing her. One of my favorite volunteers from summer reading program, this a girl, maybe like 16, named Brandy. She has just super bright red hair and tons of freckles, and she's super fun. And I really love her. I'm glad she was there. And so this float's coming, and you can slowly kind of hear Seven Nation Army coming as the float is moving down. And I look up, and some girl I see is playing drums and singing Seven Nation Army. It's the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. It's so sincere, and I love Brandy, and she's doing such a good job. But it's also the worst White Stripes cover you'll ever hear. It's just, I've watched that video 20 times since I've been home, and I've only been home like 2 hours, and I hurt myself laughing over this thing, as I'm sure Matt has already put it in. And oh my God, it was one of the greatest moments of my life. And it's so funny too, because I was laughing at it because it was so ridiculous, but I also felt like very like dad proud.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, good job, Brandy. I can't wait till you come into the library and I'm going to tell you that you were awesome and that you should start a band and all this stuff. But yeah, if you listen to it, oh my God. It's so funny. I texted my friend Greg Bogoni, who's a friend of the show, was on one of the episodes. I texted him this thing and we were laughing about it. And he was like, Seven Nation Army to that generation is like what Stairway to Heaven was. It is. For like our generation. Yeah. Because, it's inexplicably played at all the... It's 3 chords. It's played at every fucking sports game. Yeah. But I hate that
song because of its overuse.
But this is my favorite version of all time. This made me fall in love with this song all over again. With 16-year-old Brandy Williams playing and singing. Oh, it was great. So fucking cool. So that was how I ended my evening. And then, I was just like high off of that. Just so hilarious. I got in my car and, fishtailed my way up the fucking hill to go home. And then I got home, quickly ate some dinner, and here I'm at. So, yeah.
Snowflake Parade is...
Yep.
How long is it? Sounds like it was long for a relatively small town.
Yeah,
I guess long. When you have a truck festooned with American flags, it could be really long.
Yep. Every other float was like an excavator or like, Knife River excavation.
Knife River. Oh my God.
Knife River. Or it was a bank. Like there was like one float that was, I didn't know that Klamath Falls had a roller derby team, but there were a few that I was like, okay, that's cool. But most of them were like fucking banks or, cement companies.
Roller derby.
Yeah, I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, okay, this is cool. There's weird little cool things bubbling underneath, like there is in any fucking redneck fucking Trump town, there's, because it's not 100%. It's never 100% of its citizens.
Yeah. Just feel like you'd have heard about that by now.
I know, right? But I was just like
I feel like if I had to move to Klamath Falls, I would have found out there was a roller derby scene and I would have gone on a Friday night and just checked it out just because why not?
Yeah, even though I'm loath to do anything in this town because whenever I leave the bubble of my house and the library, which are a quarter mile away from each other, whenever I leave the downtown area, I just feel like I'm going to get murdered. And I hate everyone and I hate the world when I leave the downtown bubble.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, I'm branching out though. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, tonight was a good night. I mean, I had a good program at the library, and then I, saw a hilarious parade and saw one of my volunteers kicking ass. Yeah. So that made me feel good.
Yeah. So is that it for like Christmas parades? Is that it? Was that the snowflake parade? Is that's like the Christmassy holiday catch-all?
It's a big thing. I guess it's probably going on for 60 years.
Was there a Santa throwing candy or anything, or like?
Yeah, there wasn't as many Santas, but there were like a dozen Grinch.
Krampus?
No Krampus, hardly any Santa, just Grinch. And most of the Grinches were like, so maybe it's because I caught like the last half hour of the parade, but they were all just shuffling with their head down, just not like, whoa, they're just like, It was sad.
It's like POW camp Grinches.
It was Trail of Tears shit. Like I was just like, good Lord. God, what is happening here? Yeah, it was bad. I think it's maybe seeing the very tail end of a parade when it's 28 degrees and icy, and these Grinch are just like, fucking kill me now. Like
sure but the slush has like wicked through their feet of their suits and just Yeah, kill
But
me.
I mean, it was a half hour. I was there I was watching about 45 minutes, and I saw a dozen Grinch, and they all looked like they wanted to slit their wrists.
How long is this thing, do you think? Like, when did it start? Like, is it 2
I
hours?
think it's normally from 6 to 8, but it ended about 8:45.
Good God, man. Like, even when I think back to being a kid, like, I kind of liked parades. I remember being excited for them, but like, for me now as an adult, like, parade is the stand-in word for something that seems like it's going to be fun, but is awful and unending.
Yeah.
Like, just a hollow experience.
Hey, I'm with you. And I normally, all my adult life, I think that, but I have weird, fond memories of the Rose Parade because my Aunt Judy and Uncle Dale were very into it, to where they would like, go downtown and like sit for half the night and like, get
the best spots,
get our seats all together, and we would all go down as like a family. Little kid. I was a little kid. And we did this from maybe when I was 5 to 12 or something. And, we'd always be right around like Old Town. So Old Town back then was, not as kind of scary as Old Town is right now in downtown Portland. But
yeah.
But still, like, yeah, we would just go there and watch the parade, and we had a great fucking time. That's why I love the Elliott Smith song Rose Parade. I just fucking love. And I know it's, talking kind of about how ridiculous the Rose Parade is. But I don't know. I'll always have weird, fond memories about that. And in Gresham, there was the Teddy Bear Parade, which was there, every year. That was our big parade, which, I got to ride in one year, just saying. So,
yeah, I need that picture again because now you've...
It's going to be the cover of my album.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think our big parade was something called the Fun Festival. It was always like the first weekend of September. It was downtown Coos Bay. And that was when there was a bunch of food vendors. You get your elephant ears, blah, blah, and the Rotary Club and whoever drove around and threw candy, and the cheerleaders did their thing and blah, blah. And I, as a little kid, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And it's just, once you hit like, 11 or 12, it's just like, what the fuck? Yep. Just give me the candy.
No, for me, it was 12. Once I was 12, I was just like, I'm not going down there anymore. I don't want to do this.
But now, to me, it's one of Dante's like rings of circles of hell. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely it is. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be that old guy, but I'm talking like, mid 80s downtown Portland, which was fairly charming, I have to say. Like, okay. I know I have, the weird, like, nostalgia rose-colored glasses, but it was a smaller place. I mean, Portland was a smaller town when I was a kid. It was not a giant metropolis in the slightest. So I don't know.
Parades still suck no matter where they are.
They do, unless you're from 5 to 11, and then they're pretty fucking rad. Especially if your aunt and uncle scope out the cool seats and save everything, and you get there and you have a kick-ass view.
Yeah, that's what I don't get is the adults like who are into it, like the people like you're saying. I mean, it's been a thing forever to go down there the night before and put up. Some people camp and like spread a sleeping bag out over 4 seats. Camping chairs, and sit on the side of the road and sit there and sleep and watch fucking designing women on some fucking tiny fucking TV with an antenna.
That's right.
What the fuck are you doing? You're an adult. Get a life.
That's my aunt and uncle. It's exactly what they did. And you know what? God bless them, because we got really killer seats when I was a little kid. And those are some of my favorite memories, I have to say.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's great if you're at Dealey Plaza. I just don't understand the rest of it.
Yeah.
Good God. All right. Well, thank you for the debrief. I appreciate hearing about that. It's nice that Norman could show up tonight.
Yeah. Norman. Yeah, I did good.
Were you in character?
Yeah, I had to be in character. Sure. I was glad one of our employees, this like 18-year-old kid named Nathan, who works at Youth Services now, I have a fairly like friendly, antagonistic relationship with him. And so I cast him as my son, who I was very disappointed in. So I just got to yell at him all night, which I was pretty stoked about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, I think that's it for me.
Yeah, that was a good bonus show. Yeah, I'm out of a drink too. Good bonus show. A little long, but I hope it was worth it.
Definitely.
So yeah, from From us to you, hail Satan.
Hail Satan. That's the bonus show. See you next week.
That's a bonus show. Bye.